teachers of Reddit, what are your stories of, oh god, this child is a sociopath? My mom is a special needs school teacher, and I've heard a lot of horror stories coming from that line of work. The one that sticks out to me most of all is one about a male student rushing to her desk with a pair of scissors, fully intent to kill her. Don't ask why, my mom has no idea. Almost got her in the eye as well, but she was lucky to dodge it and hold him back until he has restrained. She has dozens of these stories, but has somehow managed to still beat it out of goodness in her heart, which is honestly incredible to me. I wouldn't really call it sociopath behavior, but it is similar to some stories on here with just a kid who gives me the creeps. I'm also not a teacher, but I was the authority in this situation. So back in middle school, we had this thing, where we were buddy with a kid from the elementary school. Our school was pretty big and taught preschool grade 12. So, I was put with this kid in grade 3. Based on the behavior I saw right away, I could tell this kid was the troublemaker. As things went on, I found him abnormally obsessed with violence for his age or any age, and I had to intervene in a few situations where he would hurt a classmate, and even once a kid in my own grade. Though this struck me as unusual and terrible behavior for a kid his age to have, I also felt quite bad for him, knowing that his parents helped cause this in one way or another. One thing really creeped me the fuck out. We were doing this activity for our old big buddies, the people in my grade, that were buddied with multiple kids in the elementary, rather than just one, to get to know their part-time buddies. So me and this dude in my grade were both drawing pictures of him, while he drew ones of us. Now I knew that this kid was a surprisingly great artist, probably doing better than some of the kids in my current grade, but I didn't really know what he drew to practice so much outside of school. Well, I found out that day. Me and the alt presented our amazing pieces of work to him, and he simply grabbed our papers, tore them, and threw them away. I was a little sad, but it really didn't matter to me, although my work sucked too. Then the kid had to show us his sketches. Me and the alt were quite freaked out as we looked at what he drew. It was us dead. Our corpses were covered in wounds and dripping blood, and the fact that it was drawn so well made it terrifying. The kid laughed, gave us the drawings, and said that, singling me out, I was the ugly, and he thought I looked like this, as he pointed to my drawing again. Yeah. I really did enjoy the rest of the year having to see this crazy ass kid every couple of days. Still gives me shivers. I'm scared to know what this dude is like now. I work as security at a half school / half mental health facility. I get to see literal sociopaths, but legit top 2 stories are kids who I genuinely believe to be crazy. Story 1. I'm sitting at my desk doing Reddit stuff, like I do every day. The halls are decently quiet except for distant muffled crying as a kid was having a breakdown. Typical Tuesday shit. Then suddenly I hear a coworker say, "Put that away. If you don't get dressed we will have to call the police." This fucking kid whipped out his dick. Not in a sexual way, no, he was mad, so he decided I'm going to pull my dick out. It was crazy, it went on for like 10 minutes. This kid just got bare ass naked and fucking ran around the room. As far as I know he isn't diagnosed with anything other than maybe depression. He isn't bad, but that day he decided, fuck it, it's dick time. Story 2. Literally like 2 weeks out from story 1, a different kid much older. He has been in and out of full hospitalization. I used to really like him, he was a very sweet kid, but joined in with the criminals of our facility and turned for the worse. Well, he was frustrated with us restraining him. We are a hands-on school. We took him to a space for himself, and while he was in there he straight up fingered his own ass and then tried touching everyone with it. I luckily didn't have to get involved too much, but my boss had to wear full protective gear. That was a wild day. Had a boy last year. Let's call him James. He would just stare blankly at you when you talk to him, rarely showing emotion to anything anyone said. For context, I'm based in rural Australia and teach Japanese. We were studying hobbies, for you weebs out there. Everyone else in the remedial 7th grade class was able to say the sentence in Japanese by substituting in their hobby, be it dancing, tennis or football. I gave them a worksheet with a wide range of hobbies, and they got to choose one. So it's James' turn to answer in Japanese what his hobby is, and he shrugs and says I don't know. This is pretty common for language teaching. Kids hate the language or don't want to embarrass themselves in front of their peers. That's fine, I thought. I'll speak to him one-on-one when everyone else is doing the reading and writing activities. So I asked James, who at the time is slowly pushing the edge of a plastic rule down the front of his book, trying to cut it like one would cut a cardboard box into pieces for the recycling. I asked him what's going on, what's stumping you with this? It was at this moment I knew this kid will either go to jail or end up killing someone. He stares at me with the void in his eyes. He says briefly I don't have any hobbies, none of these anyway. Okay, sure, what are your hobbies? I'll teach it to you now, I responded. Guns, he says sharply. What about hating cats? He quickly adds. I respond by saying that the lack of interest in something does not equate to a hobby and guns were not appropriate. Well, what about Ivan Milat? I'm kinda like that for cats. I was goddamn horrified. The other 7th graders who were at eavesdropping didn't know who this man is, and you might not either. I reported this comment to the principal and called home. Home confirmed it, said it wasn't my business, and threatened that my cats, 2 gorgeous ragdolls, would be next if I kept snooping. They know where I and my wife live, just because it's a small town and everyone knows where all the teachers live. Cops wouldn't help, but every day I come in to teach that class, that fucking little cunt would ask me, so how are you cats today, sir? This is my moment. I'm probably too late to the party, but my student fits this question perfectly. I taught kindergarten, and I had this student named John. John is obsessed with all things horror. Knives, guns, serial killers, etc. On the first day of school, I asked the kids what they wanted to be when they grew up. He answered a serial killer. A few days later, I see him cutting himself with his scissors. I asked him why, and with the most deadpan stare he replied, I want to know what it feels like to bleed. After hitting his grandma with a shovel, he was recommended to removed from school and placed in a special school for students like him. All of this at the age of 5. In the 6th grade, my stepson asked if he could have a sleepover at our house with a kid who had just transferred into his school. Kid was very big for his age and quite charming initially. But as the evening went on, I found a lot of his behavior unnerving, but not anything I could put my finger on. Early next morning I was doing dishes and began to get the creeping feeling in my spine, like I was being watched or followed. This was New York City in the 80s, so it was a feeling I knew well. I turned around, and the kid was in the doorway, watching me and smiling, running his eyes up and down me like a dude in a bar might do. Hey, he said softly, and literally licked his lips. I told him in a low, even voice to call his mother and get his stuff. He was going home now. What I cannot stress enough is how short and predatory his demeanor was. Needless to say, my son was not allowed to socialize with him anymore, and within 3 years he was in juvie for aggravated rape with a weapon. I was observing a 5th grade math class one day, and while the teacher was distracted, kid A is talking about killing himself. He is telling multiple kids over and over, while laughing maniacally, that he can't wait to kill himself. He is literally the most cheerful kid in the school in these moments. At some point, kid B hears this and says, "You're gay," to kid A. Definitely inappropriate, but pretty mild. Kid A responds that B's mom is gay. Not only that, B is the product of incest, lesbian incest, because his mom got raped by his grandma. So kid B is a lesbian, incest, rape baby. Well, that shut down kid B real fast, but A wasn't finished. A starts screaming asking if B wants to hit him. A asked B if he wants to kill him, will he kill him? At one point he asked B to rip his arm off in disturbing detail. A is screaming in kid B's face when kid C gets close, because by now all the kids are rushing over to see what's happening. A pretends as if C pushed him into B, he was not actually pushed. B then hits A, because in his perception A just shoved him. A immediately falls to the ground in tears into the fetal position. This is where it starts to get crazy town. The teacher is finally involved, and we are able to separate the students. Once the teacher pulls kid B out of the class, kid A casually pops up, brushes himself off and laughs. Now I have to wait in a room with kid A and other staff until his mom arrives. Kid A is acting relaxed and disinterested as if nothing happened. As soon as mom comes through the door he bursts into tears and collapses on the floor again. Just like before. He told mom that this happens to him all the time. B is a bully. Everyone in the class is a bully. He told her that B called him a product of lesbian incest. This is what A said to B. But now he is claiming it was said to him in a bullying indecent. He is almost hyperventilating. He is retelling the whole story, but switching places with B saying that B told him to kill himself. Mom is buying it. Again, I watched the whole thing, and he knows this. When mom steps away to talk to the counselor his tears dried instantly. He looked right at me and smiled.